Most people think betrayal comes with a loud crash, a slammed door, a screaming match. Mine came with a handshake and a polite smile. After 18 months of 80-hour weeks, endless code reviews, and missed family dinners, I was called into a sleek glass-walled office. They said the words so smoothly, congratulations, and goodbye, like they were offering me a gift instead of stealing my life's work. But what they didn't know was that while they were plotting behind closed doors, I was preparing something too. Something they would never see coming. I didn't have a billion-dollar legal team. I didn't have powerful investors backing me up. All I had was a system I built with my own two hands, and a simple promise I made to myself. No one would ever take away what I created. Not without a fight. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about foresight. About building something strong enough and smart enough to defend itself even when its creator was pushed out. And trust me, by the time they realized what had happened, it was already too late. Let's start from the beginning. The dream didn't start in a boardroom or a fancy Silicon Valley accelerator. It started in a tiny apartment, with a second-hand laptop balanced on a kitchen table, and a stubborn belief that cybersecurity could be better. Smarter. Human. I had seen it firsthand, at Microsoft, at other tech companies, how defenses were always reactive. We built walls after the enemy had already breached the gates. I wondered, what if we could predict attacks before they even happened? What if the system itself could learn, adapt, protect without waiting for orders? The first sketches of Sentinel Shield were drawn on the back of old notebooks, during late nights fueled by cheap coffee and relentless hope. A system that wouldn't just respond to threats, it would anticipate them. Like a chess master seeing the checkmate 10 moves ahead. When Titan Tech offered me a role, it felt like destiny. A company with cutting-edge resources, promising innovation without limits. It wasn't just a job. It was a chance to finally bring Sentinel Shield to life, and to prove, to myself more than anyone else, that I wasn't just dreaming too big. The lesson? Dreams don't need the perfect conditions to be born. They need belief. And just enough stubbornness to survive all the reasons they might fail. I didn't know it then, but that stubborn belief would soon be tested in ways I never expected. Because some dreams are too powerful to leave in the wrong hands. And that's where the real story begins. It didn't happen all at once. Betrayal rarely does. It seeps in quiet, subtle, like a slow leak you don't notice until the foundation is already crumbling beneath your feet. At first, it was small things. Meetings about Sentinel Shield that I wasn't invited to. Progress reports I submitted that somehow never made it to the board. Brandon's visits to the lab grew shorter, his questions more pointed, not about how Sentinel Shield worked, but about how fast it could be deployed without me. I brushed the doubts aside. I told myself I was being paranoid. After all, we were building something incredible together, weren't we? But the truth had already started to show itself. 6 months before it all exploded, I caught the first real glimpse. An unusual login on my private development server, timestamped at midnight. A user account I hadn't authorized. A download that wasn't logged in the project tracker. I set up silent alarms, not to accuse, not yet, but to watch. To document. Because when trust starts cracking, you don't throw punches. You gather proof. You prepare. The lesson? When the signs start whispering, don't ignore them. Listen. Protect what you're building, even if it means protecting it from those you thought were on your side. Because the ones who smile the widest, sometimes are the ones hiding the sharpest knives. And I had just realized. Brandon Holt wasn't building Sentinel Shield with me. He was waiting for the perfect moment to take it without me. But if he thought I was defenseless, he hadn't seen what a quiet storm could do yet. Once you realize the game is rigged, you have two choices. You can walk away quietly. Or you can rewrite the rules. I chose the second. Instead of confronting Brandon, instead of making noise, I started building traps, quietly, methodically, the same way I had built Sentinel Shield itself. First, I encrypted Sentinel's core learning engine with a layered access protocol. Nothing malicious, nothing illegal, just a simple condition. Without my unique credentials, the system would slowly degrade, misclassify threats, and eventually become useless. Second, I trained Sentinel to recognize internal risks, not just external cyber attacks. Corporate betrayal? Unauthorized access by executives? Covert tampering attempts? The AI would log everything, timestamp everything, build its own evidence trail. And third, I made sure the system could self-report. Buried deep in the code was a failsafe. If ever prompted by specific hidden signals, ones only I knew, Sentinel would generate a full dossier, ready to be deployed to regulatory bodies, investors, and even the media if necessary. I wasn't sabotaging the company. I wasn't destroying the project. I was simply protecting what I had built, the right way. Here's the truth. Sometimes in life, you can't control who will betray you. But you can control how ready you are when they do. So I smiled at every meeting. Submitted every report they asked for. Played the loyal architect while quietly setting the dominoes in place. Waiting. Watching. Because I knew. The day Brandon made his move, he would walk straight into the trap he thought he was setting for me. And that day was coming faster than he realized. It happened on a Thursday. A seemingly ordinary day, emails, meetings, endless coffee refills. Until my calendar suddenly showed a last-minute meeting request. Investor Demo Final Run-Through, Mandatory Attendance. The title sounded harmless enough. But the invite list told a different story. Brandon. Andrea from legal. No one else. No engineers. No development team. Just me, and the people holding the scissors. I knew exactly what was coming. Still, I walked into that glass conference room with a calm heart. Brandon flashed that familiar rehearsed smile. Andrea sat stiffly, a thick envelope in front of her. Maya, Brandon began, first, let me say how grateful we are for all your hard work. Truly. I nodded politely. But, he continued, sliding the envelope across the table, as the company evolves, certain realignments become necessary. Inside the envelope. A termination letter. A thank you bonus check. A confidentiality agreement that read like a gag order. 18 months of blood, sweat, and innovation, reduced to a severance packet and a handshake. I closed the envelope without reading more. No protest. No angry outburst. Just a soft smile. I understand, I said simply. Because I did. They thought they were cutting me out of the story. But what they didn't realize was, they had only just triggered the ending I had written months ago. As I stood to leave, Brandon leaned back in his chair, confident he had won. He had no idea that Sentinel Shield was already preparing to turn Titan Tech upside down. Starting with tomorrow's big investor demo. And I wasn't going to lift a finger. The system would speak for itself. Loudly. And for once. They would finally listen. The next morning, while most of Titan Tech buzzed with excitement about the investor demo, I sat quietly at my favorite coffee shop, sipping a warm latte. No laptop. No emergency calls. Just a peaceful, steady heartbeat. At exactly 10 a.m., the demo began. By 10:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A single word from Rachel, Brandon's assistant. Chaos. I smiled into my coffee. Sentinel Shield was doing exactly what I had designed it to do. Not just detecting external threats, but internal ones too. And right now, it was flagging Titan Tech's own leadership as the biggest vulnerability in the system. Brandon tried to reboot the demo. He tried bypassing the authentication protocols. But every time he touched the system, Sentinel Shield responded by isolating, escalating, and reporting. Investors sat stone-faced as screens flashed red, security alerts piling up faster than Brandon could clear them. The very AI he tried to steal was now defending itself, and me, with ruthless precision. By noon, the once confident CEO was pale, sweating through his designer suit. Calls from investors poured in. Board members demanded emergency meetings. And me? I spent the afternoon reading a novel by the window, letting the storm rage without ever stepping into it. Because here's the truth. When you build something with integrity, when you pour your soul into it, not just for profit but for purpose, it protects you when it matters most. That day, Titan Tech learned a lesson the hard way. You can't erase the architect without the foundation collapsing beneath you. And I had never felt stronger. By the end of that chaotic week, everything had changed. Titan Tech's board, desperate to salvage their shattered investor confidence, reached out. Not with threats. Not with empty promises. But with respect. They asked me, the architect they had almost erased, to return. Not as an employee. Not as someone to manage or control. But as a co-founder, a partner, and a guardian of the very technology they once tried to claim. It was tempting to slam the door in their faces. To hold on to the anger, to the betrayal. But I realized something deeper. Real power isn't about revenge. It's about setting new rules, rules that protect not just what you've built, but who you are. So, I agreed, on my terms. Full recognition as the creator of Sentinel Shield. 50% ownership of all future patents. A permanent seat at the table, with veto power on any decision involving ethics or security. And an independent oversight board to ensure transparency, not just for the technology, but for the leadership too. This time, I wasn't just building systems. I was building boundaries. I was building values into the very core of what came next. Because if there's one thing betrayal teaches you, it's that protecting your dream is important. But protecting your integrity is everything. The rules had changed, because I had changed. And this time, I was the one writing the blueprint. Months later, as Sentinel Shield rolled out across industries, from healthcare to finance to national security, I would sometimes pause and wonder. What was I really building? It wasn't just code. It wasn't just a product. It was something bigger. It was about proving that innovation and integrity could coexist. That you didn't have to sacrifice your values to succeed. That quiet resilience could outlast the loud betrayals. And it wasn't just about me anymore. You see, the young engineers who joined our team, the ones just starting out, they didn't just inherit Sentinel Shield. They inherited a standard. A belief that what we create must be protected, nurtured, and defended, even from those closest to it. Because every project, every dream, every spark of inspiration, they are fragile at first. But when built with courage and guarded with wisdom, they can grow into something unstoppable. Something that leaves a mark not just on a company, but on an entire industry, on a generation, on a future we might never fully see, but will have helped shape. In the end, the real victory wasn't winning against Brandon. It wasn't even the IPO or the headlines. The real legacy was knowing. I stayed true. I built something that mattered. And I protected it until it could stand on its own. And that's a future worth fighting for. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever built something, protected a dream, or stood alone for what you believed in, know this. You are stronger than you realize. In a world that sometimes tries to take shortcuts with your vision, your integrity is your greatest armor. Success isn't just about reaching the goal, it's about protecting the road that got you there. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video to support more real stories like this. Comment below, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? I read every comment, and your voice matters here. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring journeys where courage meets resilience. Together, let's keep building, protecting, and believing in ourselves and in the futures we dare to create.